Cosmosenka. Welcome to week 7 of language arts. You have just 2 more weeks, really? Like, it's insane how little time you have left. 3 more weeks, sorry. You have a little bit extra time, but your last week is pretty short, and you just have a couple days and fun activities that week. So we are going to start looking at a project for the next couple weeks to be sort of your final assessment. And so let's get into that today. So today you have a video overview of the assessment. Tomorrow you're going to start brainstorming. You're going to start planning. You're going to write and then finish the first part of the assessment, hopefully this week. And then you'll have the next part next week. So let's look at an overview of the rest of the quarter really quickly. In your weekly lessons, you're going to have a video, this video you're watching today, right? May 1st. And then this week you'll be working on the memoir part of your assessment, which we will be going over momentarily. Then next week you're going to work on the poetry part of your assessment. And you do not have school on Wednesday. So you have a little bit less time to do that, but that's okay because you also then have the next week, a couple days. So because your class schedule continues on into a week 10 where you have a few days, but you are, my understanding that you'll be doing some fun activities that week. So Thursday the 18th is the last day that you can turn in any work for me because I will be done and on break starting Friday the 19th. So hopefully you can finish everything by Tuesday the 16th. But you do have a couple extra days there if you need to. So we're looking at the last 3 weeks all together with this one project, okay? So take a moment now to find your project, your creative writing assessment on Canvas. Hopefully you have your creative writing assessment in front of you now. So you'll see that there are 2 major parts of this. There is writing a memoir and writing a poem. So we will work on the memoir this week. You do not really need to worry about the second part yet until next week. You will have a video for the poem next week to help you, support you on that. We're just going to be writing a memoir this week. So we've talked about memoirs for a few weeks. We've looked at story elements, and we've written you've written a sample and looked at a memoir and looked at story elements and the different parts of a memoir, right? So you're going to choose one of the memories that you brainstormed last week in your timeline to write as a memoir. You're going to complete on the next couple pages. There's the memoir outline guide, and then you're going to type your memoir on the blank pages, provided there is an outline linked here that I'll go over momentarily that you can follow. You don't have to follow it. It just kind of ensures that you have all the elements of a memoir. And the requirements here are that it's 2 to 4 pages. And I've provided you with 3 pages here, but you can just create another page if you need more than 4 pages, or more than 3 pages if you need 4 pages, but it needs to be 2 full pages, okay? Not like on to the second page, it should be a full page. It needs to include a reflective element at the beginning and end, and there needs to be a beginning, middle, and end to the story. There needs to be a center of gravity or an idea that's repeated. There needs to be some sensory details, that imagery, grammatical correctness, typed in Times New Roman double spaced is what I put on there, but honestly, it's not that big of a deal. Right now, it's set for comfort. It's not, I don't care that much what you type it in, but you do probably want to have it in double spaced, and so you can do that just by sort of highlighting and then clicking the line spacing button and then click double. Double space 2 will allow you to have, yeah, so you will fill up the page faster. So that's probably something you want to do, right? So that you don't have to write more to fill up those 2 pages. Sorry, wrong slide. You need to have your name and a title for your story, okay? So that's what we'll be working on this week. We will not worry about the second part of this. This is going to be like part 1 this week, part 2 next week, okay? So we will fill this out together and then start working on the actual memoir. Where am I here? Okay. So you're going to choose one core memory from the timeline. It can be even the one that you already wrote a sample of. And actually, if you thought of another memory later that you want to write about instead, that's fine too. The timeline that we did last week was just sort of a way to brainstorm ideas, but you can use any memory that you have at all. So you listed memories on the timeline. You're going to choose one of them. You can choose the one you already wrote like a practice memoir for last week, so you already kind of have a little bit of it done. Or you can write a totally new one, a different memory that you've thought about later. You're going to fill out the memoir graphic organizer. So you will start that today, and then you will finish that tomorrow, hopefully. So then you can spend Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday actually working on your memoir, editing it for mistakes, and finishing it, okay? You're going to write a rough draft of your memoir, making sure that you include all the story elements and using everything from the graphic organizer. The graphic organizer is there for a reason, so filling that out, it gets all of the ideas and all the different requirements that you need for a memoir out, and then you'll turn those into complete sentences later. Once you have your first sort of memoir done, I want you then to read through it and fix and edit any mistakes for clarity. And then you're going to read through it one more time and revise and edit to add any more details and imagery, things like that. So it's really a good idea to do 2 edits. We write and then we go through and we edit any mistakes. So we write it the first time. We do 1 read through to fix mistakes, a second read through to add more details, to revise, to change, to make it sound different or better, depending on what you're looking for, okay? So 1 read through for mistakes, 1 read through for revisions. All right? So this is a reminder, you already know this, but a memoir is a short, true story that is your memory. It's creative. You can exaggerate. So when you're writing this, if you don't remember details about the memory, you can exaggerate. You can make them up. You can pretend. It's totally fine, okay? It's creative nonfiction because it has all the story elements. It has imagery. It has a center of gravity, all right? The outline that I've provided that is linked on your assessment right here is this. To have 5 paragraphs. This is really an outline. There's 5 different parts you definitely want for your memoir, but they can be more than a paragraph if needed. So the first sort of part or paragraph is to introduce the center of gravity, that idea that's going to be repeated, and sort of have a reflection at the beginning where you talk about how this event that happened in the past changed you and kind of introduce the story. Then your second paragraph or part, if you have multiple paragraphs, you're going to describe sort of the setting and the characters and the conflict of it. So you're going to describe where and when this story happened, this memory began. Describe yourself and other people that are present before anything happens. Describe the first event that begins the story and describe how you feel during this process. So you want to include how you feel at the beginning of the story, include that first event that sort of makes the story progress, that inciting incident, in other words, the introduction of the conflict. You want to have that in the second paragraph or second part if you are having more than one paragraph. Then the third paragraph or part is where you're going to then kind of have rising action, continue the story, events are happening. Remember to include how you feel about it. Describe any new places that you are moving. If you're moving through places in the memory, make sure you describe those new places. And repeat the center of gravity at some point. How is that idea present? How is it still going on? And just, continuing your story. So paragraph 3 is really the middle part of your story, maybe in the climax where you hit the conflict head on. Continuing the story, paragraph 4, this is where your story kind of resolves and ends, the end of it, what happened at the end, how did your memory end? And then paragraph 5 is more of a reflection on the memory. After the event, how did it change you? What did you learn? What do you think about it now? And then, of course, again, referring to your center of gravity. So let me just kind of give you an example of that. So from my timeline last week, one of the things that I wrote was learning to ride a bike. And so I'm just going to use that as one of my first memories, one of my first core memories, learning to ride a bike. When and where does this place take place? I was 4 or 5. I don't remember. I'm just going to choose. I don't remember exactly. So we're just going to choose details, right? It doesn't matter. It's a memoir. So I'm going to say I was 5, which means it was 1982. No, that is incorrect. 1992. I was in 1992. For a second there, I was like, wait, how old am I? I was 5, 1992. Okay. It was summer, right? It was at my house. There was like a hill. There was a hill that kind of went up to our trailer. The hill, the driveway was kind of like this long hill that went up to the trailer. Okay, so that's when and where. Who's involved in this experience would be myself and my sister. I don't remember my parents being anything around there or anything like that. Center of gravity, this can be anything at all. It can be a metaphor. It can be any random thing. So I'm going to just say that the center of gravity is freedom. Because I felt sort of, when I first realized that I was riding a bike for the first time, I felt free. Like, I was like, oh my goodness, I can actually like go places now. Granted, I could only go like a block away, but still, it was cool. What was I doing before the event? Just playing outside. What was I doing during the event? My sister, so I guess I was trying to learn to ride a bike. And then what was I doing after? What was the author doing after? Writing, I guess writing. You know, it's like sometimes these memories are sort of simple, but it's going to be all the details that we fill in that make them a complete story. So how was I feeling before the event? I was apprehensive or a little nervous. And then during, I was terrified because, well, I'll tell you why in a minute. I was terrified. And then after, I was excited, like felt free, okay? Because I actually learned how to do it. So I was terrified in the middle because my sister actually took her feet up. She was riding behind me on this big like banana seat bike. I was too big for me. And I was pedaling and she had her feet down and was dragging them behind me. And at one point she lifted her feet up and I didn't realize she had. And I was doing it. I was riding the bike with her behind me just fine. And then I realized she had lifted up her feet and then I got scared and we crashed. So there was a little bit of terrified. But then she did it again and then I was excited because then and she promised she wouldn't do it again and she did it again anyways. And then we learned. Then I learned how to ride a bike. So what did I see? I saw a yellow bike and grass and the church down the hill, things like that. I heard my sister and wind. I tasted probably some bugs because it happens, and like cool air. I smelled like that summer dirt smell, and I felt the cool air on my skin. These are the things that you're going to add in later when you revise that second time to add really the imagery, okay? All right, I'm not going to go through all of these, but this is really where you reflect and think about those reflections. These are the reflections that you're going to end up using at the very beginning to introduce the story and at the end when you are finishing your story. So your task today and tomorrow is to finish the memoir graphic organizer and the reflection piece. And then by Wednesday, you will start writing. This is your only video for this week, so please contact me and reach out if you need any help. Do not worry about the poetry part. We will work on that next week. Just get your story written this week.